when he made that speech on Sunday at a kind of tribute event for our wonderful late patriarch, Chief Edwin Clark, who, by the way, would have been horrified by his statement. I think I can say that because I knew Clark pretty well. Many of us felt betrayed. I honestly felt as if someone had given me a kick in the stomach. I said so. At the time, several people contacted me and said, "What did he say? Did he really say that?" So Fubara has to make his mind up. Since this problem started on March the 18th, he has maintained this sort of like dogged silence, apart from once telling us on Easter Sunday to ally with President Tinubu's renewed hope agenda, which is not what you expect to hear from a PDP governor.
Indeed.
Who is being attacked by President Tinubu. Because let's not make any mistake about it. He's been pretty well sacked. His posters have been ripped off billboards, and our resources have been hijacked. So, okay, so he made one statement on Easter Sunday, which made a lot of us very angry. And then he made another statement last Sunday, which made a lot of us feel very betrayed. I have subsequently spoken to, I've only met Fubara once, and he seemed like a perfectly pleasant man. But I know people who know him very well, and a lot of them have been pleading on his behalf, because I've been going ballistic all week, because I set up this organization called Rescue Rivers. So we have our WhatsApp group, and then we also have other groups around Niger Delta people, Rivers people, and even some Yoruba people from Tinubu's political heartland are very opposed to the state of emergency and all the nonsense that's going on in Rivers State. So we've all been exchanging opinions, and Fubara's fans, I call them, are saying, please forgive him. He didn't mean it like that.
Well, I was going to ask you that, and sorry to interrupt you, but is there perhaps a subtext to that statement he made, another way of reading and interpreting it that might suggest that he actually meant to say or to communicate some other meaning, perhaps?
I don't think there's any room for ambiguity in these sorts of situations. If everybody reads what you say in one way, then that's the only way it can really be seriously read by normal people. If there's some hidden message or, complex subterranean agenda, hey, I'm not a fortune teller. I can't tell, okay? So they're saying he doesn't mean it. He didn't mean it like that. He didn't mean to make us.
Well, he seemed pretty forthright, though.
He said he didn't ask anybody to help him or defend him. I mean, I don't see how else that can be interpreted. And some of his fans have also said that, we need to be patient. He's a very quiet, serious-minded, deep-thinking guy. He's not like firebrands like me, who go around talking anyhow and expressing our opinions. But I just say, well, you're either a leader or you're not. If you want to be a nice, quiet, private citizen who keeps his thoughts to himself, and if you can't articulate yourself well in public, then you have no business being the leader of any significant organization. Never mind the government of the biggest, the capital of the Niger Delta.
That's an important point, and I understand a lot of his supporters, including yourself, have now sort of thrown down the gauntlet and are calling on him to fight back convincingly and without equivocation, or resign and be done with it. And you're one of those.
Oh, definitely. Look, I never wanted Fubara to be governor in the first place. But, he was inflicted on us by Wike, his predecessor, with whom he has now quarreled. And, some of us were gracious enough to say, okay, so he's the governor now. And when he was disgraced, we said to Wike and Tinubu, I've signed an open letter to the president saying, you can't, don't treat us and him like that, So...
Well, he's clearly not listening, is he?
Well, I don't think Tinubu really cares what anyone thinks. His main focus is 2027, from what I can gather. We'll talk about that later, because it's really, really disturbing that someone who's been who's halfway through his term, is more fixated on what's happening in a couple of years' time than in what's going on around him
Although
now.
we haven't seen that from him, though. We've seen that from a lot of people who purport to support him, but we haven't seen him coming out overtly about 2027, have we?
Well, we're all heads of one household or organization or department or the other. I mean, you know, the people who work here in Arise News are not going to run out and start saying things that you and Unduka, your owner, don't agree with in public. The people in my little office, they reflect, at least publicly, the position that I take. So I still think that the people who are talking about 2027 obsessively are speaking for the president. And anyway, going back to Fubara, I would say, look, Oga, Your Excellency, step up or step down. You have a very, very competent deputy. I know her, Ngozi Odu. If you don't want this job, give it to Ngozi. If Ngozi doesn't want the job because she's your partner and you've both decided you've had enough, then there has to be some kind of constitutional compromise that will enable someone else to move in there, right? And preferably not another one of Wike's nominees, because we've had enough of him and his wahala. So step up or step down. And you can say that you're tired. You're a human being. If you want to give up, you're welcome to say you're fed up. But it is, it's very dubious to say that you want to give up when you're supposed to be the leader of men.
Well, what about Nyesom Wike and how you see him now in all of this? Has he succeeded, as one person put it, in firmly placing his boot on Sim Fubara's neck and forced him into submission?
Look, as you know, I know Wike. If I was Sim, I'd have gone along for the ride and done whatever Wike wanted, unless I was ready for a very tough battle. There's an old video of Fayose, I think he used to be governor of Ekiti State, advising Sim when he was the crown prince-elect not to upset Wike. Because anybody who knows Wike knows that he's a rougher man. You know, I once told him to his face, you're a bit of a principality, you know? So don't go and annoy him and fight him unless you're ready for it. So Fubara has, you know, he's pulled the tiger's tail. He can't cope. Wike has won, quite frankly. He has won. And we're not happy about it because, many of us are not happy about it because we think that Wike should go and face his job as FCT minister. Seems to be doing quite well here in Abuja. And he should leave Rivers State alone and move on. When he was governor under Mechi, his predecessor was harassing him, trying to use federal might against him. He didn't like it. And people like me supported him. At least I'm consistent. I was much closer to Amechi before than I was to Wike. I told Amechi, just leave this boy alone. You know, he's the governor now, let him be. Whether you like him, you don't like him, nobody cares. Stop creating drama, stop creating tension and crisis. Because Rivers State is the loser at the end of the day. Because what you really want in any state, since every state has a governor and a minister, the ideal scenario is for the governor and minister to work together to better the state, even if they don't belong to the same party. The selfish lack of patriotism that you see in Rivers State governors is sickening. You know, each one wants to destroy his predecessor instead of thinking of ways to work with his predecessor. And I have to say, it seems to be a particularly unique Rivers State problem, because in other states, okay, like take Akwa Ibom, for example. Akpabio has had his issues with various people who followed him. I have never seen Akpabio going out of his way to generate so much crisis in Uyo and the environs that Akwa Ibom grinds to a halt and a state of emergency becomes necessary. You know, are you the only person who is having problems with his godson? Nobody cares. So honestly, Wike should. He has made himself extremely unpopular. He's lost a couple of mates, like, you know, friends like me. When I say mates, I mean it in the English sense. And I wouldn't suggest that, you know, I'm on the same level as a Nigerian governor who's like a prince, you know, a king, an emperor. So I'm just saying that Fubara has lost, but you know what? They just say that you can lose a battle and come back to fight another day. You know, if Fubara plays his cards right and his body language changes and his utterances change, he can actually beat Wike, you know.
Well, I mean, there's still a shot, isn't there?
Yeah.
Because you've got the challenge from the PDP governors who mounted a challenge in the Supreme Court against his suspension. If that turns out to be in his favor, it could give him the kind of, you know, the strength and the impetus to kind of return a bit stronger, couldn't it?
And he doesn't just have the possibility of legal remedies. He also has the possibility of mass rebellion. Now, when you say mass rebellion, in a fake democracy like Nigeria, they will try and arrest you because they will say that you're inciting people to throw bombs and commit terrorist acts. No. There's all kinds of rebellion. There's passive rebellion. There's people going on strike. I believe, having done some research, that Same is much more popular than Wike. So if he mobilizes the Rivers people to stand behind him and say, no.
Yeah, but he said he doesn't want anybody supporting
well,
him.
then, if he doesn't want it, he should bugger off.
Yeah. Well, on that note, let's move on to another topic. Since we mentioned sort of we're on the